919. You're listening to 919. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
Hey everybody, happy Friday. You're listening to 919. My name is Jack Devnarain and this is Reality Radio. It's as real as it gets every Friday night when we have guests live in studio to talk about the incredible stories that shaped their remarkable lives. Tonight, what a treat. Two of my very close friends, Vikash Mathura, Ray Maraj. These guys are not just radio personalities, but I suppose iconic personalities, content producers nowadays, comedy writers, performers, as well as social media phenomena. What a new title to have. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. At my age, I'm still trying to understand what social media is.
Yeah, I don't think I have a complete grasp of it either, because part of it, is understanding how the app works, and that's where I hit the limits of my rational thinking.
Tell Jack how many social media pages you've got right now. Right?
Wow. I'm not sure if this is some sort of record for a guy who's been in radio and in the media business and entertainment business. 0.
But maybe that's also the safest thing to do. If I realize if you don't know how to navigate social media and you're not getting the right kind of advice, or if you don't have a 15-year-old to guide you, you're going to make a mistake and it's going to come down hard.
Absolutely.
So this is a bit of an irony as well, because for the longest part of your careers, you were radio personalities and you would be the ones doing the interviews.
It's different to sit in the other seat. It is it's a different feeling altogether. I feel very vulnerable right now. I'm not in control. I don't know what you're going to ask. I don't know whether I'm going to be PC or not. So, yeah.
Are you feeling slightly emotional as well?
Yeah, when I looked at the radio studio opposite me, this is what I miss. We spent 20 years in the radio studio.
Yes, that's it. Let's just talk about those times, because that's where both of you had established your names. You were household names. I mean, literally that. People had their radio on in the house. So...
By definition.
Yeah, absolutely. But from what I remember, your show on a Saturday morning was the most listened to radio program I think that station ever had.
Yeah, the normal listening trends on radio is that your breakfast show Monday to Friday has the biggest listenership.
Sure.
Your second most listened to show is the drive show in the afternoon, Monday to Friday. The rest of the shows are ancillary around that. On the station that we were on, I think we became the first radio station in the world at that time where the highest listenership on the radio station was recorded on a Saturday morning. And cumulatively, the listening audience was bigger than Monday to Friday's breakfast show and drive show put together.
That's incredible.
It was an incredible feat.
And subsequently, the Sunday show became the second highest rated show.
Okay,
we were doing Sunday morning as well.
Oh, so you did Saturday morning and Sunday morning,
initially,
and you owned the top 2 slots of the highest listenership.
Yeah, it completely reconfigured what traditional radio statisticians thought was acceptable radio listening patterns.
At that time, now, were you both working together on the same show, both just doing standard radio programming stuff?
I started off as a newsreader, and I gate crashed Vikash's show at that stage.
Yeah, I mean, you must remember that. I mean, the period we're talking about is 1997, right? So at that stage, I was already hosting solo the breakfast show on Saturday morning, and the show was already number one on the radio station. And we had a station manager who's a colleague of all of ours, a mutual colleague, Khalid Sharif,
Yes.
who had started radio with me 5 years earlier in 1992. He and I came out of the same batch. And then he became the station manager, and he had this brainwave because Ray had joined the news reading team before that. So the sum total of our interactions before he gate crashed the show was that I would see Ray for 5 minutes at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then at 9 o'clock in the morning when he came in to read the news. But in those days, we had a thing called the Natal Lotto, which these days is a national thing, but then it was only the Natal Lotto. And Ray would come in, and he decided, I don't know who his producer was.
Yeah, I was being a bit devious there.
Because newsreaders, there were rules that governed how newsreaders needed to work.
Really?
You came in, you're not allowed to engage with the host of the show. You came in, there's no banter on air, your news sting played, you read the news, you said, our next bulletin is at 9 o'clock, and you left the studio.
After the funeral messages, of course.
But not, yes, and there were funeral messages, then there were funeral messages broadcast.
Tell me, were people at that stage also dying alphabetically?
They were.
It's an amazing thing. It's incredible. But Ray, you've always wanted to do news, though. What is it you love? Okay, it's not just news, right? I know that you are constantly up to date with what's going on in the news around the world, but also trivia.
I love trivia. But I started scripting at a very early age. At the age of 19, I started teaching in Newcastle at St. Oswald's. I was an Afrikaans teacher then.
You are Afrikaans teacher.
Afrikaans teacher. And the very first script I wrote for the annual drama society, and which we staged in Newcastle, was a musical, but it was a bit of a tragedy. And the amazing thing about this tragedy is the title of the play that I wrote for that evening.
Which was?
It's something that still haunts me so many years later.
No.
Cindy.
Oh. No. I'm so sorry you brought that up.
That's an inside joke.
Inside joke.
Yeah.
But the
No, we
very
know that
first
one.
play that I wrote in my very first year of teaching was titled Cindy.
Yeah, and it was a musical tragedy.
But then I subsequently did a lot of domestic script writing.
Yeah.
It's a new concept
You know what
to you.
domestic script
Domestic script writing.
Yeah.
It's when I took the storyline, the basic storyline of Knight Rider, and every night to my kids, I used to change the plot and the action. So the bedtime stories were all scripts that I devised. And in fact, my trivia developed the interest in trivia developed at that stage because I used to have a quiz with my son and daughter, and whoever reached 21 correct answers would be the winner. However, we used to go out until late at night until we reached 35 or 36 until Karishma was the winner, you see.
His daughter.
And yes, of course. And have your kids remained, do they also have that appreciation for trivia even now?
Yes.
Yeah.
They still go to quiz nights regularly.
Your teaching career, do you miss that?
No.
Think about it for 2 seconds.
No.
No, okay.
No, I have no regrets about leaving education. After leaving education, I went into business and then into retirement after radio.
Okay, but I mean, we're going to cover radio shortly.
I'm trying to picture the scene, right? If Ray was 19 when he got his first job as a teacher in St. Oswald's in Newcastle, farm town, plus minus 1977 when this happened, right? Ray teaching Afrikaans in that political era, in a farm community, and then writing stage shows as an Afrikaans teacher. It's like a complete
you're right.
mishmash.
It doesn't fit very well, but then again, neither do the three of us on your shot right now. But that's what reality radio is all about. I tell you what, we're going to take a break. We are coming back. We've got Ray Maharaj as Uncle Peru, Vikash Mathura as Uncle Bala. We are going to visit the characters a little bit later on, but still more of their lives to come.
They say nothing ever lasts. But what about the Fast and Furious franchise? or showing Anaconda 2 for Friday action night, or how Brooke is still forgiving Ridge Forrester like 50 seasons in. And then there's Burger King's Whopper Meal deal, which is still going strong. So get your hands on 2 flame-grilled Whoppers topped with the freshest ingredients, plus 2 portions of crispy golden fries and 2 bottomless drinks for only 130 Rand. Only at Burger King, where good things do last.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
And we're back, Reality Radio on a Friday night with me, Jack Devnarain, on 919. Vikash, do you remember a time? Now, it was because Ray had mentioned it earlier. I remember when I was in high school, it was a thing to actually put on school plays.
Variety concerts.
Yeah, even that. There was at least something. And, by the time I got to, certainly variety concerts when we were in primary school, yes. High school, you might have had a chance to do a serious play, maybe something based on a school set work.
Yeah.
When you were in school, firstly, which school, which area was this?
So my high school and my primary school, most of my primary school years were in Shallcross and Chatsworth.
Yeah.
Markland Secondary was a newly built school in Chatsworth, in Shallcross at that time. I got to high school in 1984. And we were the only high school that we knew of, Indian high school, that had burgundy colored uniforms. The traditional
Really?
blue blazer and white shirt.
But Ray, I'm sure Windsor High and Ladysmith had maroon or burgundy.
I can't remember, but we used to drive past Windsor to pick up our teaching colleagues from there on the way back to Durban. We used to drive home almost every weekend.
But it was very distinguished, though. There was something about burgundy, especially in the 80s, right?
Well, we ended up having a colored principal,
Yeah.
which in those days, in the 80s, was unheard of, to have a colored principal being the principal of an Indian high school. And he brought these changes and these reforms. And there was a huge outcry in the community initially because these colors were really absurd. But it became one of the landmark characteristics and symbols of the high school. But to come back to your point about variety concerts, I still say to people today, I never harbored any ambition of being in the arts in the space we play in these days. But in retrospect, when I think back to our school's variety concerts, I never did music or speech and drama. I was a science and mathematics student.
Yeah.
But I would find myself at the end of the year, when those variety concerts were being planned, suddenly playing the main character in the lead play.
I love that.
And not that I would come out of it and then go, I want to be in Hollywood or Bollywood. Yeah. It was just a thing, and it was done, and got back to my academics afterwards. In retrospect, that might have been the little fire that was always burning inside.
Yeah.
Because my parents always said to us in those days, when you qualify or matriculate, become a doctor, a lawyer, or a computer scientist, or a teacher.
Or an Afrikaans teacher.
Or an Afrikaans teacher,
Right.
And so that's always where the mindset was in our home, and for me anyway. Never thought about the arts.
But I must tell you, after Cindy, the next year I produced one of the most memorable productions there. It was called Wanted One Body, which links up with Cindy in a sense.
Another inside joke. Another inside joke.
Yes, I could see how that was one tragedy following another tragedy.
You obviously could see things back then.
My interest in radio started at a very early age. When I was about 8 or 9, I used to buy pocket radios and listen to radio on a daily basis, every single night.
Yeah.
The first commercial radio station in South Africa was Springbok Radio in the 1950s. And remarkably, none of the productions were local. All of them were imported from Australia at the time. Pre-recorded material was brought to South Africa until the facilities were developed and the technicians and the craftsmen were developed to develop the South African radio industry and the talent.
This is why I love having somebody who loves trivia on a show like this. There's so much you learn. Now, having imported so much of that content from Australia, you wonder why they didn't call it kangaroo radio.
Yeah.
But I mean, very quickly, that we needed, in those years, if you remember, we needed to have a state broadcaster and a commercial broadcaster that was closely controlled and aligned with state values, which was obviously to push a certain nationalistic message. So at which stage, and also I remember the SABC channels then came up. We had, what was the first, it wasn't called Lotus, was it? Lotus
It was
the
Radio
first,
Lotus.
was the first Indian radio
Yeah.
station.
Radio Lotus, 1984 or 83, I think it was.
Yeah.
The station manager of Radio Lotus was Isabel van der Linde.
That's a strange name for an Indian person.
Yes, correct. And Isabel switched the radio station on in 1983, I think it
Wow.
was. And by the time we got there, or the time I got there first in 1992, the station had gone through one evolution of a brand name change, and it was Radio Lotus FM. That was a huge step to go from Radio Lotus to Radio Lotus
Yes,
FM.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And by the time Ray got there in 96, 97, it was then Lotus FM. But it was, because it was the only radio station that catered for the South African Indian community in terms of culture and film and music and language, it was the biggest thing by far.
Yeah.
The beauty of any radio station is how deep your audience penetration is, right? So Lotus FM, if you think we always had 1 million to 1.2 million Indians in South Africa, Lotus FM at its height, at its peak, had a 70 to 75% penetration into every South African Indian household.
Sure.
So if you were a presenter on the radio station in its early days, you were a superstar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Also, because, I mean, firstly, in those years, if there was a community leader and there was, especially somebody in the neighborhood who was the doctor, who was the teacher, they would generally be considered to be a community leader, generally. So you had the distinction of being teacher, right?
Yeah.
But then there was the extra distinction now of being a newsreader on radio.
That wasn't so much a big deal, I think.
Really?
It was more our comedy career that took us to the different level altogether.
I think, let's talk about the comedy career, because you, even at the time that you were writing some of these plays, did you ever fancy yourself a performer, or were you always focused on writing?
I was always focused on writing.
Coincidentally,
Yeah.
although we know each other for 27 odd years now, worked together, I asked him that exact question literally 2 minutes before this interview started.
Oh, wow. We're learning all the time, right? I love that.
But I think I was inspired by the golden era of radio. This
okay.
was the Springbok radio days, when you could listen to the theatre of the mind, Lux
Yeah.
Radio Theatre, the Pip Friedman Show, and growing up as a kid, Jet Jungle and what have
course,
you.
yes.
Mark Saxon and Sergey and Taxi. In fact, Taxi is about the only radio show that translated onto the big screen later.
Oh.
Into a film.
Into a film. There are very few radio shows that have moved on to different platforms, unlike what we've achieved over the years.
There were shows like Squad Cars, Men from the Ministry.
Yeah.
I remember while I was still in school, I would, maybe it was a Sunday evening, I can't remember, but I would sit in my room at home, lights out, have the radio on at 10 or 11 o'clock, very soft, because my parents were instructive that the radios and everything go off at 8, 9 o'clock, get into bed, tomorrow's school.
Yeah.
And I'd listen to Men from the Ministry, and I was fascinated by the sound effects and everything coming out of this little radio device that played games with my mind.
Yeah.
But I still didn't fancy a career in radio. I never thought I'll ever end up in that medium.
Did you love comedy though?
I never thought of myself ever as being funny.
Okay.
I was not the kid in class who was the funny one. I'd make the odd sarcastic comment, but I was the academic.
Yeah.
That's what I was. Until by fluke, in 1991, while I was at university, a friend of mine said, let's join a modeling agency in Durban. And it wasn't because we thought we were models. It was purely to check out girls. That's all it was during the December vacation.
Totally get it.
And that's it, right? So we were 20 years old at that time. And as it turned out, we both joined this agency in Durban. It's called Boss Models. I don't think they still exist anymore.
I think they do, actually. They might even still exist.
So Suren, I remember a guy called Suren was the owner of Boss Models.
Yeah.
And he saw the two of us, my friend and I, and we ended up being like one of the only two Indian models in this agency.
Yeah.
And my buddy had a chemical engineering bursary. And 2 weeks into that stint, his bursary said, come up to Johannesburg and do vocational work. So I was stuck alone. And then suddenly a few modeling gigs came around. And a few months later, he got a brief from the SABC that said they're looking for an Indian television presenter, male, to take over or to join the team of what was then Impressions. And he said, Vikash, you're the only Indian male here. Can I send your CV? Send it in. And nothing ventured, nothing gained. I never thought anything about it. That's how television started.
Yeah.
And I didn't know at the time that I had just become the first South African Indian male anchor presenter on television.
That's incredible.
In SABC's history.
But also, let's not discount the fact that back then, even very much now, that so much goes with the look, your voice, your performance sensibility. Also, at the time, you were very much in martial arts.
I was. I did Kyokushinkai karate, which is full contact martial arts, which means in tournaments you don't go kia and get a point. There are two rules in Kyokushinkai karate. You're not allowed to punch the face, and you're not allowed to kick the groin. Everything else goes. So I had that going. I was fit. I was a sportsman. I was articulate, although I'd never done speech and drama, and I don't know where that came from. But I was able to wing my way on an ad hoc basis through the television interviews I needed to conduct, and because I started as a field presenter, etc. But even at that point, radio was the furthest thing away from my mind. That was 1991. And then along came 1992. And I got a call and they said, listen, there's going to be a vacancy on, in those days, Radio Lotus. We think you've got a nice voice. We've seen you on television. Would you mind coming in and doing an audition? I honestly thought it was fate accomplished. I got this job.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had also advertised that role in the newspaper.
Why would they do such a thing?
So the day I got to SABC in Durban, there were 5,000 applicants there. And I did my audition, went home, and I thought,
that was so
what a waste of
disrespectful.
time.
Ray, what was your inspiration for your writing? What did you like to read? What was entertaining for you?
Well, growing up, my dad used to buy me stuff all the time to read. Not the classics, but it used to be the photo action books, the
Kid
comics, Kid Called, She, Chunky Charlie,
Okay.
Stuff like that, Samson, Mark Saxon, and then the comics. But that developed my love for reading, and I read very widely, and I read every single day, which is why I know as much trivia as I do. For example, the little bit of stuff that you find at the bottom of a turkey is called a wattle.
Everyone needed to know that. Everyone needed to know that right now.
As men get older, we also develop our own
A wattle.
Our wattle, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Ray, thank you for that.
That is very empowering.
You're welcome.
That was empowering.
One of my favorite ones from Ray was when he mentioned to me, why does the chef's hat, which he'll tell us the name of that.
Yeah, he will.
Why does it have 100 pleats?
That's because you have 100 different ways of preparing eggs.
Really?
You see?
The producer nearly fell off his chair.
Come on,
And this is a true story.
yeah,
That's
this
a
is
true
true.
story.
This is
Wow.
real. Yeah,
Wow.
you can go and check it out. You want to check it out? I dare you.
Yeah.
The chef's toque, they call it, will have 100 pleats because each pleat represents your expert knowledge of preparing egg according to a different recipe. Yeah. Matabs, is that our next cut? Yeah, okay, good one. Guys, we're going to come back to reality radio with Ray and Vikash, Uncles Peru and Bala, talking about the lives of their characters and creating comedy genius on radio.
919 has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, programming that is not harmful to children and that does not amount to hate speech, or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. If you think we're not living up to that code, you can inform the BCCSA. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa to PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024, or email the BCCSA at napsa.co.za. For more information, visit the bccsa.co.za.
So you want to be a good Joburger? Well, now it's easier than ever. Get down to any Burger King in Johannesburg and order your favorite meal. Take a picture of your till slip and WhatsApp it off to 065 503 0439. And we could be calling you back to win the entire value of your meal in vouchers. Then we give you the opportunity to be a good Joburger and select a charity of your choice, and we'll be sending them some burgers as well, all on your behalf. Only with Burger King and 919 FM.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
Reality Radio, we are back. It is Friday night. It's me, Jack Devnarain. Tonight, in conversation with Ray and Vikash, uncles Peru and Bala, let's talk about how those uncles came into being. It's amazing that they just call the uncles and everybody knows what you're talking about. If you already mentioned, Vikash, the kind of listenership that you had. What was it that brought the uncles to life? I know there's a story behind that.
So maybe let me start by picking up on a story we spoke about earlier where Khalik Sharif and I had a huge blowout because Khalik wanted Ray to join the show. He thought Ray had a very funny personality from the hard luck Natal lotto stories he used to narrate after each news bulletin. And he thought Ray would complement the show quite nicely. Now, I was arrogant enough to say to him, I've already got the #1 show. Why would we need somebody else to join the show? And working with another presenter is not the same as doing something solo.
Yeah.
There's a different set of dynamics. But I think the best thing, Khalik obviously had the foresight that I didn't. And the best thing I could have done was paid heed to his advice, which eventually became an instruction. And Ray joined the show. Remember, we're doing the show, we were doing funny stuff. Ray's role evolved from just being a co-presenter to starting to write and script features and produce the show.
Yeah.
That evolved. Still, there was no characters and voices and mimicry. And I was playing with mimicry and doing character voices and other things, but not necessarily on our show.
Okay.
By then, we had stopped. In 1997, we had stopped doing Sunday morning breakfast show, and we handed the reins to two very, very good friends of ours, Devi Sankri Governor, who everybody knows currently is the crime-busting lady on television, on the Devi Show, and Krije Governor, who we all love dearly and whose career herself, she's gone along to become a famous director.
She's so famous that she was actually on this show, on reality radio.
Well, we wanted to ask you why it took 22 episodes to bring us here, but
well, they call it room for growth in your career.
Yes. So these two lovely ladies, who are near dear friends of ours, we have to say that over and over again, are actually the two who inadvertently, unknowingly created Peru and Bala.
Those are the best stories.
You know, because what happened was we were one of the secrets of the success that we had on our show, and the reason the listenership started to move in the direction that even superseded the previous listenerships of the show when I was doing it solo, was that we started to become misogynistic on our show.
Oh, really?
But
oh, wow.
But we did it in a very clever way. And the way we positioned it was that we both married, right? We both love our wives. But in every home, we know that men know that the wife is the boss. We have limitations and we know how far to push those boundaries.
But that's not misogyny, that's truth.
That's truth, you know. And however, men, when they get together and have a drink or play a game of cards, that's when the actual true feelings come through. The things that husbands can't say at home, you know. So we were riding that wave.
Okay.
And I think the ladies had quite enough, because one Sunday morning, I had the radio on at home, and Devi Sankri and Krije were doing their Sunday morning show, and they started to do these two characters. They'd never done it before.
So they created a vocal change, and they became these characters.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we were kind of taking the mickey out of them a lot on our Saturday morning show. They created these two characters called Padma and Sawers,
Okay.
who were two old women whining about their useless husbands. But in the rhetoric, they were actually having a dig at Ray and me.
So you were the useless husbands.
We
in
were the
effect.
useless
Yeah,
husbands.
they were called the tea parties. Now, parties in Tamil means
Yes.
grannies.
Right. Yeah.
So I phoned Ray and I said, Ray, because we still got the #1 show, and they're not allowed to do what they're
Oh,
doing.
no. You can't do all
So
that.
I said, are you listening to what they're doing on radio right now? They're having a dig at us, but in the guise of these characters. And so we agreed, we're not going to say anything to them. We're going to go on the following Saturday,
Yeah.
because this was Sunday morning show. And we are going to create two characters who are the husbands of those two characters that they created. Now, to come up with the names, we were stuck.
Yeah.
Right? It was going to be a once-off thing.
Of course. You're going to have a dig at them. You just got a revenge show planned.
Correct.
Right.
So to come up with the names for these characters, Devi Sankri Govinder's husband's name in real life is Peru Bala, and she affectionately calls him Peru.
Yep.
That's where we got that name from. Krije was not married at the time, so it was a problem. So we had another legend on the radio station, the late Mr. B.K. Chinna, and B was for Bala Sundaran. That's where we got Bala from.
Right.
The idea was we would go on for 3 minutes that next Saturday and sort the two ladies out once and for all,
Right.
which is what we did. The next week,
Yeah.
the radio station went berserk. The phone lines went
Oh,
berserk.
fantastic.
Everybody wanted to know, who are these two uncles?
Yeah.
Can they be on every day? Can we hear more of them?
Okay, this is the point at which we have to hear the uncles. So, what did that initial exchange sound like? You were presenting as yourselves, right? This is now the revenge show that followed Krije and Devi Sankri. It's a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You guys are on air. You were
Yeah.
presenting as yourselves, and at a certain point, you slipped into these characters. What do they sound like?
So we probably was, bear in mind this is 1997, it's probably me going, you're listening to the Weekend Liftoff on Lotus FM, and we've got a very special panel of guests here this morning who've just joined us in the studio. Please say good morning to Uncle Peru.
Vanakkam everybody, Uncle Peru, yeah. I'm the husband for Padma. Y'all aired there last week. I'm the husband, Uncle Peru.
And the other guest that we have in our studio is Uncle Peru's best friend, and his name is Uncle Bala.
Vanakkam everybody, Uncle Bala here. I am the husband of that dragon who calls herself Sowers and who was on air last week talking all nonsensical stuff about me, Peru.
Yeah. The only reason we never came on here is that I got a grandchild. We got a grandson,
Oh, okay. What's his name?
9 boy.
How old is Dine?
9 boy is 10.
Oh, that's
So to protect him, we decided we won't say anything nasty. We won't come on her, on the radio, her.
yeah.
But enough is enough.
This was the beginning of what then became a 20-something year journey.
We had no idea.
Really?
It's not like Ray and I sat there and said, let's create these characters and, maybe someday. It was a 3-minute gig. That was the deal.
Yeah.
With 3-minute gig, it'll never happen again. Well, subsequently, to fast forward in the interest of time, when people talk about attendance records in South Africa for comedy shows,
Yeah.
right? You automatically think about Trevor Noah and the Dome when he packed out 11,000, 12,000 people in the Dome. That's for a comedy show.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the official numbers that people talk about. Peru and Bala ended up doing stadium shows because indoor venues became too small.
Oh, come on.
So the largest crowd, the record that we have to date, is at the Rydalvale Sports Stadium in Phoenix in 2002.
42,000
People.
attendance.
That is proper stadium
42,000 people. Yeah.
That is proper stadium size. I'm going to go and talk a little bit to that, Ray, about the kind of records that you guys have set, which just completely numb my mind. But just to the content of that, if you're going to be turning out stuff like that every week, it actually reminds me of the Goon Show where Spike Milligan drove himself mad into depression and into hospital several times in the course of the Goon Show. What was that like, turning out that content every week?
It was extremely difficult. It took me 30 hours per week scripting the various features on the show. And it's one of the reasons why I left radio when I did.
Really?
It was because of the high standards that we had set. We needed to come up with material that would entertain our audiences. And after a while, I couldn't find the 30 hours in the week to dedicate towards my script writing.
Yeah.
But this, there's a few other interesting anecdotes that people don't know. And we probably, this is on this show, on your show, we'll share a few anecdotes that people may not be aware of.
Yeah.
For starters, Ray and I developed a very unique system because 3 years after we started Peru Bala, I had to relocate to Johannesburg for my corporate career. And so Ray would be seated in the Durban studio in Old Fort Road in SABC, and I'd be seated at the Auckland Park studio. Eventually, the Auckland SABC Johannesburg built me a little studio in my home, and I would broadcast from there. But we were 600 kilometers apart from each other.
Yeah.
When you listen to the show, not just the Peru Bala feature, but the entire breakfast show, it sounded like we were together.
Yeah.
Right? The rapport that we have is an extremely unique one, and it's a big part of the success.
Yeah.
My wife has been in the media for a hell of a long time. But the kind of things that I do with Ray, even with her, we don't have that kind of rapport.
Yeah.
Where JJ knows how to finish my sentences, but if we go into a comic thing, we would have to rehearse it.
Sure.
Ray would write a script. In those days, we would fax it to Johannesburg.
Yeah.
I'd get the script in Johannesburg at 5 to 6 in the morning before the show starts at 6. There's no rehearsals. And for the next 3 hours, on all the features, and we had multiple characters, including Peru and Bala on the main feature, we would just rap. The script was
incredible. So you'd make it your own, you'd have your own rhythms and all of that, though, and you'd know each other that well to find those nuances.
Correct. Because comedy is about what? The content is important.
Yeah.
But the timing. The punctuations.
Yeah.
The reading or feeding off each other, especially if it's a two-hander. That's the kind of thing no university is teaching you.
No.
And what was remarkable about what we did was, besides the large numbers of people from around the world that were tuning in, we did what no other radio program ever did. We had CDs, DVDs, we had a book that was published, we had a cartoon series that ran for 5 years.
7 years.
7 years, and we had stage shows that
We've probably done close to 700 stage shows.
That's incredible.
In the time that we ran the brand.
I remember it was also, your show was a subject of an academic paper as well.
4.
Oh.
So there's 3 master's degree dissertations and 1 PhD dissertation on the generally the similar themes, but basically the social impact that Peru and Bala have had on the community through their brand of humor.
Let's reflect on that. What was that impact? How do you measure that?
I think we made a difference in the lives of our listeners by bringing a smile to their faces.
Yeah.
And it's something that a pastor from Wentworth once told me. He says, I tell my congregation every week, listen to the uncles Peru and Bala, it'll change your life.
Yeah.
And I must mention the fact about the popularity of the show. The number 1 fan that we had was a gentleman called Cedric Sissing, based in Durban. He was a manager of a bookstore. He had 5 radios in his household. One in his bedroom, one in his lounge, one in his kitchen, one in his bathroom, and one in his patio, all of them tuned into our show on a Saturday. And he recorded our show every single week.
Yeah.
On TDK cassettes.
On TDK. Even when TDK was obsolete, you couldn't purchase it locally. He acquired it from overseas to record it. The greatest fan ever. No fan does that.
Yeah.
Talk about super fans, though. I know that there was a fan who was super excited that you guys were going to be on the show today. Her name is Tejal.
Tejal Jessa.
You know Tejal Jessa, right?
Tejal Jessa is a really diehard fan. She's earned a top fan badge on my Facebook page.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, we have a quick message for her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can do her a special happy birthday message, because today is Tejal Jessa's birthday. We want to do a happy birthday to her in character.
Yeah, I want to wish you. In fact, I wrote one poetry for you. Happy birthday. Forget about the past. You can't change it.
Forget about the past. You can't change it, Tejal.
Forget about the future. You can't predict it.
Forget about the future. You can't predict it, Tejal.
And forget about the present.
Why?
We forgot to buy it.
Happy
birthday, man.
What have I done? What have I done? Happy birthday, Tejal. We're going to take a short break. It's Reality Radio on 919 with Uncle Peru and Bala. We'll be back after this.
They say nothing ever lasts. But what about the Fast and Furious franchise? Or showing Anaconda 2 for Friday Action Night? Or how Brooke is still forgiving Ridge Forrester like 50 seasons in? And then there's Burger King's Whopper Meal deal, which is still going strong. So get your hands on 2 flame-grilled Whoppers topped with the freshest ingredients, plus 2 portions of crispy golden fries and 2 bottomless drinks for only 130 Rand. Only at Burger King, where good things do last.
The Feel Good Drive with Nicole De Silva.
Do you know that homes in Nigeria get built with generators? They're not even trying to be fighting with their provider.
Every house there that they had literally had a generator. You could literally hear the generator on the show.
Oh no.
Just running and running and running
Yeah.
and running while they're actually having a conversation.
Monday to Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. only on 919. We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for Reality Radio, as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
We're back, Reality Radio on a Friday night with me, Jack Devnarain. In studio tonight, Ray and Vikash, uncles Peru and Bala. After such a successful run, you then decided retirement was the best thing for the uncles. But why?
You know, when 2014, by the time we got to 2014, we were doing Peru and Bala with 17. We're running with it for 17 years, consecutive #1 statistics. We had a racehorse that was named after a famous line that Peru and Bala created. Because Peru and Bala are known for certain iconic lines.
Yes.
You know.
Okay, give us one of those lines, some of those lines.
Nice like that.
Not nice to laugh at other people's problems. Ganda ganda.
Oh, well, we know what Ganda Ganda is all about. Thank you.
So we had those things going. We had 2 international musical groups who wrote songs about them. We were, and this is probably still true up until today, we were certainly the first to take radio characters, fictitious characters that were created on a radio platform, and then take them to theater and make them visual to the market.
Yeah.
Now that can be sacrificial, that strategy, if you don't get it right.
Yeah.
This worked. Why it worked up until today, we don't know. And why it enjoyed that level of success, we could never tell.
Well, you had the radio show going at the same time, though, right?
We had the radio show going at the same time, but lots of people do comedy.
Sure.
Why did these uncles suddenly become so popular?
Yeah.
I think it's only because they dared to say things that husbands and wives found funny because they could relate to it. They knew it was true.
Right, so there's a familiarity to the kind of things that they talk about because it's in the neighborhood, it's in the home. And what I liked about it always, and I think, Ray, this is a huge credit to you, though, it was never offensive. There were never any swear words. There were never profanities. It didn't need it.
Yeah.
We've always wanted to keep it, the content at a level that the entire family could enjoy a show. And we've always maintained that.
I think in the 650 or 700 shows, stage shows that we've done, we have the distinction of never, ever dropping a profanity.
That's incredible.
And
that's hard to do,
we always believed you don't need profanity to get a laugh.
Yeah.
The laugh should be in the rest of the content.
Exactly.
And then in the delivery.
We always knew where to draw the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd push the boundaries, make no bones about that. We'd push the boundaries in the content, but at a certain point we know, just leave it there and let it hang.
And I think your audiences appreciated that, though, because it seems for so much of comedy now, particularly stuff you can get. I mean, obviously, yeah, you're going to see it in live shows, but there's massive amounts of comedy content online, and it's very easy to go into that kind of thing because for many performers it helps them keep a certain rhythm.
Yeah.
Using the F-bombs and all that sort of stuff. But you have your own rhythm, and you use that to your advantage.
Here's the funny thing, while we're talking about profanity. So I do multiple character voices, as you know, right?
Yeah.
Now, if Uncle Bala went on stage, or Uncle Peru went on stage, and even by accident dropped an F-bomb, the audience, I don't think, would laugh and find it funny. In fact, they might be offended. Because as much as they know Uncle Peru is Ray in real life and Uncle Bala is Vikash in real life, they see these characters and become invested in the characters over the period of time, and they have a certain level of expectancy.
Yeah.
But if Harry Mama were to go on stage and drop an F-bomb, people will find it funny.
What does he sound like?
Dhania, karela, methi, bhaji, bring your aja and your aji. Tomatoes, potatoes and half-ripe berries available only at quarter price from Harry's.
I love it. And he's a much-loved character as well.
And he's brash. He is a chancer. He's a thief.
Yeah.
Trying to make a living. He's a good, lovable guy, but he's brash. Yeah.
He's been calling us for the last couple of days, trying to get onto our
He wants
social
a
media
slot.
platforms. And there's no way we're going to entertain that guy just yet.
Yeah, because
Ray, has it translated from the interest of your live shows, the interest of your radio shows, has that kind of interest translated into where you are now on social media?
I think it's overwhelmed us.
Yeah, is it?
Because we're talking about 2014. So we retired in 2014. We retired Uncle Peru and
and
Bala in
that's
2014.
like 10 years now.
10 years. Social media then was not what it is now.
Yeah.
We had Facebook back then, and I think that might have been the sum total of social media.
Sure.
Maybe Twitter in those days, a little bit. But no Instagram, no TikTok.
Yeah.
And we retired the brand for a number of reasons, personal and professional reasons. We felt it was the right time. We wanted to hang up our headphones whilst we were number one. The SABC itself was going through a phase of evolution, as was Lotus FM.
Yeah.
And we thought it was the right time. So we retired the brand.
Yeah,
But
it's
also,
fair to do that.
one of the reasons where I was a little doubtful about returning to social media and to the entertainment business was the question, are we still relevant today?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, that's such a good question. Let me ask it. Ray,
Are you Jack, that is an amazing question.
well, I'm glad I asked that, in fact. So,
But I think the numbers have
No,
spoken.
but we were not sure.
We're not sure yet.
It required us to be convinced, because I was trying to push Ray
Yeah.
during the last decade that we had retired that brand, because I'm still active in the media. Ray was formally retired from any profession.
anything.
He was relaxing. And Ray was not interested,
Yeah.
to be honest. He was not interested in coming back and doing anything related to the arts. But we had two good business partners, who are now business partners, who approached us in August last year, and that's Fadine Mia and Crystal Vitti. And they are much younger than us. So they
I
understand.
think most people are.
Most
a
people.
lot
Thank you.
younger.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. So they propositioned us by saying to us that you guys have no idea what impact social media could have now if you brought the brand back.
I think it's a really good time just to explore what those possibilities are. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Uncle Peru, if we have to go back into your life, did you ever think of yourself as an entertainer?
As Uncle Peru.
Yes.
I am entertaining every day, ma. Every day when my missus asked me why I came home so late, I could have come up with a good story.
Yes.
And, the first person to meet me by the door is never the missus. You come at 11 o'clock night, 12 o'clock night, you think the missus is worried. But who's by the door?
Who?
The dog.
And what's your dog's name, Uncle
The
Peru?
dog's name is Egypt.
Why do you call your dog Egypt?
Because you leave little bit pyramids all over the house.
Yeah, this is a dog that clearly has no discipline.
Yeah, no discipline.
But I know that, Uncle Peru, you are a grandfather as well.
Yeah, 9 boys, 10. Is not doing that well in school. In fact, headmaster got our number on speed dial.
Yeah. But, Uncle Bala was always known to be a community leader as well. I'm not sure why, but, people regarded him as such.
Ask him.
Yeah. So, Uncle Bala, I need to understand, why is it that people think so highly of you? Is it your business acumen, your sporting achievements, the way you have with the ladies? What is it exactly?
That last one. That last one. The other words you used was very high. But that last one made sense. People often ask us, Jack, how did you two uncles become the best of friends?
Yes, that's a very good question you're asking yourself.
We're the same age. We got married on the same day. We both got one child. We both have a grandson named Nine Boy. We both have the same likes. We like to have a drink with the boys.
You like Tani?
We like to play cards. We don't like pressure by the house. We are, I have to be very honest here, Jack, like most men who might be watching your show, we are hen-pecked husbands. And we are very proud to admit it to you, but we will not admit it to our dragons.
Never.
Yeah. Oh, wow. See, now that's a dangerous thing to say. You cannot say, you can't call your wives dragons.
I never called it dragons. I never said that word.
No,
Pedro.
never.
I never said that word.
He's putting words in your mouth.
You're putting words in my mouth, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I accept your apology.
The other night I went and had a drink with Peru, right? The other night I went and had a drink with Peru, right?
Okay.
I went to midnight. I was drunk.
Keep the story short.
I was finished. I was tananas, right? I was so drunk, I jumped into the bed with my wife. I was so drunk, I asked her for a phone number.
I would have been terrified if she actually gave it to you.
She never gave me the number.
Your wife didn't give you her phone number, hey?
Yeah, listen, I think that, the thing about social media, right? We've come back now because Crystal and Fadine convinced us that there's a whole world out there that we had never explored. We had listeners from 40 countries. Yeah. I mean, one of our biggest fans of Peru and Bala was legendary cricketer Lance Klusener.
Oh.
Okay. He's got the entire Peru and Bala collection.
Yeah.
But they spoke about a brand management system. Don't come back just for live shows. Don't come back just to re-expand and reintroduce your brand on Facebook. Let's talk about all these other mediums. Let's talk about the quality of production value, what we're going to put out there, how we're going to produce these videos. Let's talk about a film. Let's talk about a sequel. Let's talk about a television series. Let's talk about merchandise. Wow. This is global.
Okay, now we're talking.
And we've got to acknowledge at this stage Pies Entertainment, who's now joined our team.
Yeah.
So we've got a very powerful team with some great ideas going forward.
Yeah. And we had a fantastic addition today. I don't know, Jack, if we're allowed to mention, but we had a fantastic addition to our team today.
Well, you know what? I think give us some chance, give us some time going into the projects that you've
Keep
got
a few surprises in the bag.
Because I would love to have you guys back.
Yes.
And I would love to hear more about the uncles, about the other characters.
Right.
You have an amazing team, and I know that you guys are growing at an amazing rate. So tell us what the brand management team has been able to do for the uncles that's helping you to make this incredible transition, coming out of retirement and bringing the uncles back into people's lives beyond the live shows, but now into social media.
I think what they've created is the most professional social media campaign ever attempted in this country.
Wow, that's the big now.
And specifically for South African entertainers, I think the quality of what's going out, because of their vision, it has superseded all expectations. It's exceeded all expectations.
Yeah.
I'm 53. You and I are the same age.
Yeah.
They've kept me looking young. They insist I take my vitamins every day, so that helps. But for me, the biggest thing that I have to give them credit for is that what I couldn't achieve in 10 years in my career, they achieved in 1 2-hour meeting. And that was to bring Ray out of retirement.
Oh, that's a big deal, yes. Ray, for where you are now, do you see the vision? Did they successfully paint that picture for you?
Yes, they did. And I think we almost there.
Yeah.
We've got a long journey to go through, but the trajectory and the momentum that's building has been incredible. I'm super impressed with my entire team.
You know that a lot of the material that you developed over the years remains popular. Are you still able to use that as a resource so that when you're developing new material, you're able to use that as well?
My biggest tragedy 15 years ago, when we were relocating from Durban to Johannesburg, is that I got rid of 3 cartons of original scripts.
Oh, come on!
But we have tried some of the old content in the first round of social media productions that we shot.
Okay.
And some of it has gone out already. The surprising response, because you would think, okay, the debates we would have internally in our workshops was, is that going to sell again? Because people are going to go, we heard that one before.
Yeah.
The difference is they heard it on radio.
And now
they're seeing a real life scene where the uncles are. It's not just audio anymore, it's now visual. And the impact is different. The timing is different.
I think, you are reinventing yourselves, or should I say, you have resurrected the uncles. Congratulations on the new project. It's absolutely amazing to see you back in action, bringing the comedy to life again. I want to say thank you so much, everybody. This is Reality Radio. Uncles, would you like to say goodbye to the audience?
Vanakkam, everybody. Have a good night.
Firstly, in formality, I want to say thank you to 91.9 FM Reality Radio, and to you, Jack, for having us on the show.
Well, thank you, everybody. Please watch us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, because that's where we are under the brand name Peru and Bala. Raka.
Have a great weekend. See you next week.
Heartbeat changing.